Yeah, so I grew up in Texas so I was there until I was 18. I went out to California and spent 10 years there, and just moved out here in January, about 6 months ago. And so this is just the very beginning of our lab. But what's been really remarkable, I have friends in California who ask me what it's like living in the Northeast. Is it cold? Is it miserable? Like, you get these sorts of questions, right? And it's the people. It's really the people who make this place what it is. And our students, they've taken these ideas, they've run with them. They're finding new directions that we had never dreamt of. And it's the colleagues in our department, the students, the people that we interact with in organizations like ILP, like the Energy Initiative, that make this such a rich ecosystem, unparalleled to any that I've worked in before. It's a very special place, right? I went to Stanford for undergrad, went to Berkeley for grad school, and Caltech, and you grow up in an ecosystem that's sort of made to believe that that is the center of the universe, right? You come out here and you realize that there's something very, very special, right? About how people work together, the collaborative enterprise that I wasn't raised to believe existed here, but that you find that it does, and people are very humble about that. They don't sell it, I think, in a very vocal way, but it's I couldn't possibly imagine doing this work somewhere else. Yeah, so at present, we're working on building up interactions with the Department of Energy, the National Science Foundation. Those have historically been very strong supporters of a lot of this sort of work. We're also finding that the industrial partners that we talk to through the Energy Initiative and the ILP have been very receptive to these technologies. And so we actually expect, based on how things are going right now, that about half our group will be supported through industrial sponsors and half through federal sources. I think that when I look at these problems today, one thing that always strikes me is that one can go through in gross detail with the techno-economic analysis and try to see, is this something that works today? And a big part of what our group does is to understand not if these technologies will work today, but if they can work in 10 years or in 5 years, right? Future forecasting is always very hard. It's hard to tell where things are headed. But when one doesn't try to aggressively forecast, one risks missing what's going to be next. And so that ability, in a sense, to disconnect oneself from the present reality, to envision a future paradigm, is something that we really kind of challenge everyone around us to do, whether it's our students or the organizations that we interact with, is that change sometimes occurs very quickly in an industry. We've seen that with solar and wind, and we believe firmly that the chemical industry is next, and that by having close interactions with the chemical industry, we'll avoid being surprised by these transformations, or by having these transformations occur elsewhere in a fashion that doesn't contribute towards or help several key dominant players in this industry today. And so we hope that by bringing an understanding of where things are headed and what we believe will be the reality 5 or 10 years from now, that we can help to facilitate this transition and make it less abrupt. That's right. Yeah, so if we look at the world today, we have a century and more of investment in the way that we do things right now, right? In the petrochemical industry, with powering our world and creating all the molecules and materials that we need. One could envision a completely separate paradigm in which we don't try to bring along all this existing infrastructure. We believe, though, that finding ways to facilitate the transition of using everything that we have today and adding on certain smaller unit operations that surround those is a much more feasible way of driving this transformation. And so this gradual push towards this future vision is much more likely to happen rather than a paradigm which has no connection to present realities. We could all sit down and dream up a world that's not connected to the past or the present, but that would create a very exciting future. And as much as we'd like that to be the case, we know that that's not the reality that we're presented. We're handed a certain deck of cards, right? We're handed a certain hand that we have to work with. And that hand is informed by the past, it exists in the present, and we can build an effective bridge to the future if we play with that hand rather than trying to create a new one that doesn't exist.